While we've been perfecting air travel for the better part of 100 years now, it's still a mode of travel that has some dangers. Sure, it's statistically safer than driving in a car, yet when things go wrong at 30,000 feet, that is likely the place you do not want to be. Now, odds are you will never find yourself falling from a plane without a parachute. But we're here to play What If? That is, what would happen if you somehow fell or jumped out of a plane at 30,000 feet without any safety equipment? Statistically, things wouldn't look good since your odds of surviving a fall of just 84 feet onto solid ground is about 10%. But anything is possible. Could you survive the fall? Pack your parachute, passport, and carry-on because we're about to find out. Alright, let's say that one day, for whatever reason, you find yourself on a passenger flight. As the plane is just about to pass 30,000 feet, you hear a strange sound, and before you know it, you're sucked out in the cold open air. You, my friend, are now free-falling without a parachute. What are your odds for survival? We won't mince words. They aren't good. After all, you are now falling through air that has too little oxygen to breathe and is only negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You'd also be initially moving at hundreds of miles per hour thanks to the plane. Medical experts say that it's likely a person couldn't survive the psychological trauma of this event or the stress it would place on your nervous and circulatory systems. But let's just say you're in peak medical condition and survive this moment. Well, what you'd experience next would be a number of troubling things. First, the extreme cold would be most unpleasant. That'd be the least of your worries, however. That's because with so little oxygen, you would start to lose consciousness fairly quickly. As hypoxia set in and you passed out, the last thing you'd likely notice would be that you'd picked up an incredible amount of speed. On average, you'd likely reach a maximum falling speed or terminal velocity in the neighborhood of 176 feet per second. That's 120 miles per hour. At that speed, your trip from 30,000 feet to the ground will take just under 3 minutes or approximately 170 seconds. Fortunately, for a chunk of that fall, you'll be right out. Unfortunately, for the last part, you could be fully conscious. You see, for the first third of your fall, the air doesn't have enough oxygen, which will cause you to go unconscious. There is a chance, however, that you'd come to as the oxygen becomes more plentiful and the air warms at around 22 to 21,000 feet. As you slowly come to your senses, you'd realize that it wasn't a bad dream, and that you had around 120 seconds to prepare yourself. At this stage, to even remotely improve your odds, you have to get stabilized and slow your speed. For this, you'll want to try and take the posture of a flying squirrel with your arms and legs out and back arched. Skydivers do this for control and the added benefit of slowing your descent. It could also prove useful in another way. Now that things are stabilized, it's possible, albeit unlikely, that you channel your inner Keanu Reeves and steer yourself around to grab any nearby falling wreckage. Of course, this is highly unlikely, but since Hollywood makes skydiving out to be the easiest thing ever, and you don't have a parachute, what's to lose? The reason for this is that if you can become a wreckage rider, your odds of surviving this fall improve a tiny bit. Historian James Hamilton coined the term wreckage riders after he found that fall survivors often made it through their ordeal because they were strapped into a seat or wedged between debris. That means grabbing anything that will not only create drag, but also provide some bit of cushioning for that inevitable landing. However, odds are if you are free falling from 30,000 feet and somehow manage to get to under 20,000 feet intact and in control, you'd be more focused on the ground coming at you. So let's deal with that. They say the worst part isn't the fall, but the landing. In this case, no truer words were spoken. For this final part of the descent, you want to steer yourself to the best possible landing site. Of course, we're using the term landing very generously in this case. In reality, you want to land somewhere that is as soft as possible, or will at least slow your speed before you hit the hard ground. Avoid obvious things like buildings, roads, and rocky patches. Even water is off limits because from that height, at that speed, it'd be like hitting concrete. Instead, look for snow, freshly plowed fields, or swamps, as they have some give. Forests can work as well, but there's a high chance of getting skewered like a shish kebab. Best case scenario, there's a packing plant below you with a yard filled with packing foam and peanuts. Once that's done, relax your body and hope for the best. So, can you survive a fall from 30,000 feet without a parachute? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. But it's statistically unlikely. Even following all those steps we outlined doesn't guarantee a thing. But there are many cases throughout history of people surviving such falls and just walking away. Air hostess Vesna Volovic survived a fall of more than 30,000 feet thanks in large part to wreckage riding after she became wedged between parts of the plane. Bear Grylls fell 16,000 feet and survived. There are others who managed to slow their descent just enough thanks to hitting power lines or even a glass ceiling. Yes, an actual glass ceiling. It all depends on your circumstances, luck, and your personal health. Heck, if Indiana Jones can do it with an inflatable raft, just imagine what you could do.